All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod. I am Kayvon and Shawn alongside my guy, Shawn White. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Appreciate everybody tuning in. All of you guys out there, reach out. Let us know your thoughts, comments, concerns, everything. We will answer them as we always do. Shawn, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Ready to get into this championship game. We got the last game of college football season coming up. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. College football is almost over now. Time is full, really gone by quick. And I'll tell you one thing, man, that's interesting that I wanted to bring up right before we dive into this championship game. You know what's been fascinating about the college football playoff, Shawn? The games have not been very good. Like, honestly, if you go back and think about the college football playoff, I was thinking about this today. The best game that we have had in the whole playoff is the Oklahoma-Georgia game back when it was Baker Mayfield. It was the semifinal game. It went to overtime, and then Georgia won, and that set up the really good championship game where we had Georgia, Alabama, Tua did the walk-off TD and all that stuff. That was really the best semifinal game we have had. But if you've noticed, bro, most of these semifinal games have been absolute blowouts.
Yeah, that's the case. Usually we get about one good game between the three.
Yeah.
Is really how it goes. Like the year that Wade got thrown out for Ohio State on Clemson, that was a really good game.
That
The
was a good
Fields
game.
Ward game. And after that, obviously, they went and got buzzsawed by the freaking all-star team LSU had that year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how that was. I mean, Deshaun and Bama was still the last BCS game, right?
No, Deshaun and Bama was the college football playoff. That was
so we got the one good championship game there.
That was a really good title game. That was an awesome title. We've had some good title games. I mean, we had that title game. We had the Georgia Bama title game. We had Trevor steamroll Bama. That one that wasn't that good. So got a couple kind of
I mean that's kind of how it is, really.
Yeah.
I mean that's a whole different discussion that we've already kind of been into, but that's why they got to expand this playoff just so we the best game so far has been the Rose Bowl with Ohio State and Utah, and that would potentially be a playoff game, so that's much better to watch. That's why they got to expand it. It's just to make it competitive, bring more teams into it, bring some balance, then you get better games, even if it's not the 1 versus the 12 necessarily, or if they do a bye, even if it's not the 4 versus 12, at least then you get games like that Ohio State Utah game that's part of the actual playoff.
No, if they expand it, you're getting a ton of really good games. That's just how it works. The more sample size you get, the higher rate you're going to hit on a really good or numerous really good games. But that's just something that's been fascinating to me to notice as we've gone here. But to me, we have now ended the season with the two best teams. I think Georgia and Bama are the two best teams. I know there's a lot of SEC people out there that are SEC haters that are pissed that this is the final that we're getting. But I'm not mad about it because these are the two best teams. And I'm someone that's happy as long as we get the two best teams. And I feel like we are getting the two best teams. And I think that this is going to be one hell of a game. I don't think it's going to be like that last game in the SEC championship. I think it's going to be a great game. Shawn, we'll get into our predictions in a minute here, but what are your thoughts on Bama versus Georgia?
I think it's going to be a much closer game than last game, that's for sure. Mainly because I think Mechie's loss is kind of big. I think that's the one thing that's holding Bama back a lot, is not having Mechie on that outside anymore. Because now it's just a Jameson Williams show, and I would hope that Kirby and them would be kind of smart enough to double team him the whole game, have somebody over the top. The thing is, it's going to be a bunch of NFL talent out there no matter what. It's going to be a great game to watch, scouting wise, entertainment wise. These are definitely the two best teams. I don't want to hear anybody say that, somebody else deserved to be in. Ohio State had their shot and lost to Michigan. And after watching Utah run on them, both these teams would just run all over Ohio State. That's the issue. Ohio State would just be able to score with them. That'd be the fun part of that. It's going to be the two best teams in the country going at it right here. I'm excited to watch it. Saban's usually owned his assistants in these spots. It's going to be a tight game in my opinion. I'm looking at like a field goal, maybe 5-point game somewhere right in there.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a very close game. And usually when I look at games like this, I look at two things. I go, who has the better coach and who has the better quarterback? And for Bama, they've got both. Kirby's a great coach. Nick Saban, it's not even a conversation. Nick Saban's a way better coach. Stetson Bennett is not a good quarterback in my eyes. So Bryce Young is obviously the better quarterback. So usually when I look at those two, I'm picking that team. Now I'm going to go against that this time, and I'm actually going to pick Georgia to win this game, and I'm going to do it because I just think that Georgia has the talent up front to beat Alabama in what Alabama's weakness is, which Alabama's weakness is when they can't protect Bryce Young, they get in some trouble. That's what happened in the Auburn game. I mean, let's be real. If Auburn just controlled the clock better and had some better clock management towards the end of that game, Bama's not even in the playoff right now. Like they have 2 losses, they're out. They're not even in. So because Georgia has those guys up front that can do so well, because of the loss that they don't have a receiver with with Michi, excuse me. Because the one weakness for Georgia is their secondary. And now that they have one less person that they have to worry about beating that secondary, I actually think that Georgia can make some noise in this game and win. The reason I'm not fully confident on it is because of Stetson Bennett. And I'm just going to say it. Shawn, you've said it. I've said it. He's not a good quarterback. I think JT Daniels should be out there, and I don't think he's that great either, but I think he's much better than Bennett. But I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that he will not lose them the game. I think they have enough talent out there that they will be able to do enough without worrying about him. I think he'll take care of the ball. I don't think he'll win them the game, but I don't think he'll lose them the game. I think for the first time we can officially say, and we haven't been able to say this in a long, long time, that when you step on the field with Alabama, Georgia actually has the better players in this one. Now, Alabama has the more important better players like quarterback, but overall, when you line up their rosters, Georgia's roster's better, and I think that they're going to finally take the cake and beat Alabama. Not confident going against them, but I'm going to pick Georgia in this one.
Yeah, the thing that's very strange is Georgia's going to out-talent them, which is very rare for a Bama team. But if you're building a team, I think actually all of Bama's foundational pieces are all better than Georgia's like important positions. If you look at left tackle, Evan Neal, he's going to go top 3 in the draft. I could argue he should go number 1. If you look at quarterback, you obviously would take Bryce over a dude named Stetson. Your wide receiver, obviously Jameson Williams is the best wide receiver out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at rush ends, as good as Georgia's are, Will Anderson's the best player on the field, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily.
And then corners kind of wash out, but I mean Georgia's can be had. That's the truth about it. And Bama's, even though they're young, they're very talented. So it's a weird setup where all the important positions, Bama actually has it. So I've got to lean Bama on my pick. I believe Bama's going to win. I can't trust Stetson Bennett to win a big game. That's just my opinion. I can't do it. I don't even trust Kirby Smart to win a big game, to be honest.
I don't blame you.
I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, which is what they're going to have to do. And unless they can somehow like get some deep shots down to George Pickens this game or work Bowers over the middle, I just don't see it happening. Really, they're going to have hope Bowers and Pickens can have them on the back end, because you're not going to run the ball on Nick Saban defense. Nick Saban's not going to let you run on him, and that's all Georgia can do, really.
Yeah.
I don't trust Stetson Bennett to make the big-time throws, whereas I do trust Bryce Young to come in. And even though they won't have a run game, because you also can't run the ball on Georgia, I think Bryce Young can have them. I think he'll get it over the top, maybe even to JoJo Earl a little bit, which we haven't seen very often. But I think they maybe send JoJo Earl on some flies if they double Jameson a little bit. I think he's going to have them that way. The matchup to watch, in my opinion, when Georgia's on defense, is if they try to spy Bryce a little bit with Nakobe Dean, because Nakobe Dean does have the athleticism and smarts to keep up with him and make sure those gaps are protected. That's just going to be where it is. It's going to be a battle of some X's and O's right here, and I've got to trust Saban on that, and I think it's going to come down to 1 or 2 big-time throws, and I've got to trust Bryce over Stetson Bennett for that.
Yeah, so everything you're saying is the logical pick. Like everything that you said is spot on, and everything about Bryce Young is spot on, and that's why it's not a confident pick. That's why I would never tell anyone, like, I'm not betting this game. I'm just picking this game. I would not put my hard-earned money on this game, because I'm not confident either way, and I'm sure as hell not going to put it on Stetson. But I it's a gut feeling that Georgia's going to do something with their D line because Alabama can get got with that offensive line. Like, they've got some good players up there, but it's not a good offensive line. It's not the normal offensive line. Now, the reason why I'm a little worried, though, is because I think Bryce Young is such a good player that he can make up for the bad offensive line. And that's what we've seen him do up until this point. But I also think we've seen where he can get flustered if he's a little bit off his mark. And I'm just going to trust that Georgia's going to be able to make enough changes where they can get him off his mark and that they can win a low-scoring game. Because you're right, Stetson's not going to beat them. They're not going to beat them. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the run game because their run defense actually isn't that good. The problem is Bama's just really good. Nick Saban's just really good at scheme, like Belichick. Like, Belichick will have a deficiency in his defense, but come big game time, he finds a way to eliminate that deficiency. Bama, really, their run game isn't that great. They're like stopping the run, they're not that good at, but Saban just somehow is so good at finding a way right before game time to eliminate that where they will be better at it. But I'm trusting that maybe they can get that run game going a little bit. They can get an early lead, and then they can do something with their defense to hold it. But I will tell you this right away, and I'll text you, I'll tweet it out, I'll text you. If at any point this becomes a shootout, Georgia has absolutely no chance at all. This has to be a low-scoring game for Georgia to win. Georgia is not going to go toe-to-toe in a shootout with Bryce Young and win. They have zero chance. If the first quarter comes out and we're looking at 14-14 or 10-10 at the end of the first, Georgia's done. I don't care if they're tied or what. It's not going to work out that way. Georgia needs to be up 10-0 at halftime. That's the type of game that they're going to have to win. It's going to be a low-scoring game where Stetson just has to make a couple plays and the defense can do the rest.
Yeah, two things on that. I believe Bama actually matches up well run defense-wise on them because they don't have the quarterback option to run. I think that's the whole thing of it.
Yeah,
and
if you've seen in the past, the quarterbacks that beat Bama are the ones that can run.
Yeah, so I think that's why they match up with Georgia's run game so well is that they don't really trust Stetson to throw it over the top of them, and he's not going to read option them on the outside, so they just can focus on lanes from the running back, which is just standard Bama technical football, which they do every day in practice from the time they get there. They just are fundamentally sound in that aspect. The way you were talking about the shootout, I think it would be absolutely hilarious. Don't you think it'd be hilarious if somehow Georgia went down by some at half and they put JT in the second half?
Oh, yeah, that would be.
That would be poetic justice with the whole Tua thing. But it's not going to happen because Kirby's hard-headed, man. Kirby's just too hard-headed. I was going to say,
the problem is Kirby Smart's – and this is a huge fault on Smart. And I mean, this is something that could really take him down in his career. And when I say down, I'm not meaning he's going to get fired or anything, but could limit him from being a champion coach is because he's got an issue with his loyalty. And I'm all about loyalty. But, dude, we saw – what Nick Saban did to Jalen Hurts, who was his guy. I mean, the guy lost 2 total games at Alabama, and he was in love with Hurts. And in the matter of seconds, he sat his ass on the bench and brought in Tua. Kirby Smart would never do that. He just can't do it. He doesn't have the blood to do it.
Yeah, and I've heard the 2 reports that goes around the internet and everything that the actual reason that JT isn't playing is that JT has a confidence, cocky, attitude issue. He thinks he's better than everybody. It's dude, this is high-level quarterback. What do you expect him to do? So we're going to get into the Caleb Williams transfer thing. For that reason, I definitely wouldn't recommend Caleb Williams go to Georgia like some people have suggested. I wouldn't go play for Kirby Smart.
No, that's why you don't think he's going to go there.
Yeah. It's the minute you get out of line and you're like, hey, I'm a really good dude. Look at me and start to get cocky a little bit in practice. Kirby's going to bench you for somebody like Stetson Bennett. Nah, I ain't doing that. That's the big flaw with Georgia. Georgia has all the talent in the world. Sometimes they just get out-coached by Kirby not coaching as high level as he could be, and Kirby don't know how to handle the quarterback situation. That's what it is. It's Georgia's big flaw. Again, that's why I have to pick Bama in this game. Until they show me they can overcome this, I've got to go with the opposition in big-time games like this.
And I'll tell you this, man. when we're talking about the quarterbacks and the issue with Georgia is if Georgia doesn't win this game and it's another downfall and they don't win it because they just simply weren't good enough at the quarterback position and they don't get Caleb Williams, we're going to have to start talking about, are they going to ever be able to get over the hump in terms of actually getting, because now we have actual track record where we can say, okay, he let go of the number, 11th pick in the draft in Justin Fields.
The number 2 high school recruit that year.
The number 2 high school recruit.
From his state.
And dude that went up to Ohio State and threw 40 touchdowns and 1 interception, went to the semifinals game twice, went to the national championship game once, lost him because he wouldn't play him over Jake Fromm. Then he goes and gets JT Daniels, who lit it up at the end of the career, in the end of last year. And again, JT Daniels is no Fields or anything, but he is better than Stetson. Like, we can make that for a fact. He lit it up at the end of the year. He came in, he got a little bit of hurt, and now he's all about Bennett. He won't put JT back in. Like, Kirby's got to win this game, bro. Otherwise, and if he doesn't get Caleb, quarterbacks notice these type of things. They really do. And you can offer them as much NIL money as you want. Bama will offer them the same amount, and they're going to pick Bama. Like, it's a really issue that we got to follow along. Now, if they win this title game, doesn't even matter, because you beat Bama, recruits are going to come in, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. It could still be an issue down the road, but they won the title game. It doesn't matter. But if they lose, bro, and if they lose because of their quarterback, it's an issue.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it when they have Gunnar Stockton in there next year, because he'd probably go play at basically any place that doesn't have an already established big-time quarterback. So if Kirby's keeping him on the bench for a less talented player, like, you got to trust a freshman that's that talented to manage a game. That's what Clemson did when Trevor came in. That's what a lot of these schools do. You've got to trust that 5-star freshman to come manage your game around your talent and then carry you those next 2 years. For some reason, Kirby just doesn't follow that model. And again, I think we're going to transition into the Caleb Williams talk. That's why if I'm Caleb Williams, I don't go to Georgia at all.
No.
I go somewhere like Ole Miss, in my opinion.
That's what I tweeted out right away. Yep.
I'd go to Ole Miss. That's a great place for him to go. I'd also think about coming back to Oklahoma because Jeff Lebby's good. I do think this is a little bit of posturing for NIL money. I think if Oklahoma can match close to other schools, I would go back there. That's a very strong possibility. I don't know if I would do LSU necessarily. They've got a long way to go. I think you got to wait a year for LSU. That's kind of where I'm at with them. But if you do want to go and throw to a Kayvon Butte, who looks like he's staying now, that's definitely a prime spot to be in. You definitely have the number 1 receiver and the athletes around you. So I don't know. I'd like to throw out A&M. I know they got the LSU transfer. Max Johnson's a little iffy for me. I'm not huge.
Caleb will win that in a minute.
Caleb Williams would easily come in and be their starting quarterback, and they have Georgia level talent all on their roster. So they'd be an instant problem for Bama next year, even though Bama has Bryce and them coming back. I think those are the 3 places I'd look. I know I just named all SEC schools, shocker, but I mean those are the 3 I'd look at. Those are the 3 that's probably going to pay you the most as well if you got to think of it. So that's kind of where I'd lean. All
right, let me throw 2 schools out for you, because if I tell you this right now, if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm going to Ole Miss. It's not even close. They're losing their starting quarterback. You come in, you start day 1. You're with a really, really good offensive coach in Lane Kiffin. Like, you got some talent around you. I'm going to Ole Miss. Not only that, the fans will surround their arms around you. They will love you, hotty toddy all day. But let me throw out 2 schools for you that I think could be interesting. One is your team and my girlfriend's team, UNC. What do you think about UNC?
That's an interesting spot because they have all the recruits as well. I'm not a big UNC football fan. I'm a basketball fan, so that's a great throw out for you on that one. So football, I kind of just watch for prospects, but I do watch UNC a ton just because they are my basketball team. They do have 5-star after 5-star, and Loki, if you look at their recruiting classes, they've actually been top 10 in recruiting classes like last two,
Oh, they've
3
done great
years.
recruiting. Yeah.
So when you got Howell moving on, you do step into a good situation. Josh Downs is still there at receiver. They have the running backs coming up. The O-line has another year. So I actually do like that a lot because you're kind of going in there, and who are you dealing with next year in the ACC? Just Clemson, really?
Yeah.
Hoping they bounce back. And then Miami's on their young up-and-coming thing. So that is an interesting spot. I never even thought about them. I like that.
Yeah, I think UNC could be interesting, and I think that they've got enough. They've got enough deep pockets
They've
around
got enough
Chapel
Jordan
Hill.
backing, is what you
Yeah,
mean.
they've got
Jordan
enough
and them can
money where
back
they
it.
could find a good NIL for Caleb Williams. There's no problem with that. I'm pretty sure Jordan has a couple Nissan dealerships around Chapel Hill. That would be good. I could see that. So, and also they've got a kid coming out that's a quarterback. I forgot the kid's name. It's Luke May's brother. He went to Charlotte. Yeah, I forgot his name, and supposedly he's supposed to be a decent player, but Caleb will win that. And then this is the other one I wanted to throw to you. And I don't think he does this, but I think it would be fascinating, especially with the crosstown school, or actually the same city school. What about UCLA?
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Wouldn't that be fascinating?
Because
I
I don't think he'd want to go play with Chip, though.
I don't think he would want to go play with Chip either, but supposedly UCLA was getting thrown around as a possible school I saw on Twitter, and that fascinated me because I didn't understand why, but I know that he maybe he wants to go to California. I'm sure they can get a good NIL deal out in California, but I just don't understand the Chip Kelly offense very well. I mean, dude, he can run. Like, he can run well. He could use his legs. I don't see it, but I thought that was a fascinating one to bring up.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I actually really, now that you said the UNC one, I actually do kind of like that fit. He would definitely be like the main man for 2 years in downtown, like Franklin Street area.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
he'd be the guy down there, man.
They would
Because
love
the
him.
basketball team, like I'm a UNC basketball fan. They've kind of gone to like, and it's happened over the last 10 years. They've kind of gone to this whole like not really one and done type like
Yeah.
major NBA prospects. They're more of a, they get seasoned players that are like all experienced, and it wins for them. Like they've won championships that way. So he would be like the biggest star on campus day one. Like
Easily.
he'd be walking in downtown to Sup Dogs and all these other clubs, everything. Everybody would be knowing who he is. He'd be the man around there. So that's a
Oh, they would love
one.
him at UNC, and
The
he would.
yeah. The problem is that they do that too at Ole Miss and all that, just because
Yeah.
football's such a big deal down there. So I don't know. I do like those that we just threw out right there. I think that's probably a good top 5 list that we've kind of laid out for him, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think that, and in all honesty, I think that's probably the ones that he's thinking about. I mean, UNC, UCLA, that might be more of an outlier. But I think if I was him, I would go visit UNC. Why not? See what happens. But if I was him, at the end of the day, I just don't see why you wouldn't go Ole Miss. It just may, or like you said, I understand going back to Oklahoma, but bro, they are losing receivers left and right. I mean,
Yeah, now that Butte decided to stay, Mario Williams Jr. is probably going to Bama. That's my thought, because Nick Saban's going to want to replace that speed he's losing with Jamison Williams, and Mario Williams Jr. would just walk right in.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too. So I just like Oklahoma. I love Lebby. I think Lebby could be wonders for him, but I'd be a little bit worried with the amount of talent, the new coaching changeover. I think Oklahoma might need some time there. I love the Texas A&M one. I'll tell you this, man, with that roster, I think Caleb Williams walks in there. I think Texas A&M's a playoff team. I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
I think they're the one thing they were missing last year was a quarterback. And they had quarterback issues when homeboy got hurt. So you throw in Caleb Williams, and they for sure as heck have the money for him. I mean, Texas A&M is throwing out money like it's trash right now to get these guys out in there. So I think Ole Miss would be 1, and I think Texas A&M would be 2 for me.
Yeah, I think A&M's only losing Leal on defense as well, and they're replacing him with like 2 5-star tackles.
Oh,
so it's like, and then they're losing Spiller on offense. But if I'm being honest with you, I like A-Chain better.
I think Falcons draft Spiller. I love that.
Yeah, and I think Spiller's like a top running back prospect, but I honestly think A-Chain's a better running back, in my opinion. So
I think we could get Spiller. The reason I say that, I think we get Spiller in the second round. You maybe even late or early third. Like you don't have to use a big pick on him. But yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, that's a great spot for him. Honestly, they could bring Mario too if you really want to come down to it. That
Yeah.
A&M will throw money like they're the Yankees, man. They got deep pockets back in them, that's for sure.
Especially now that Texas is coming to the SEC, they want to get they don't want there to be like some type of they want it to be a gap when
Mhm.
Texas comes there and make sure that it's a big gap. And they're going all for it, and I respect that.
Yeah, that's for sure. One little comment too. You were talking about UCLA. I figured I'd bring this up right quick. One comment about USC UCLA that kind of flew under the radar is, did you hear what CJ Stroud said about it?
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, they talked about him being from California, because he's like he lived right beside
Yeah.
like UCLA, and he said they'd bring him into USC and UCLA games, and he'd be like, "Yeah, this is dull, and like nothing's happening." And then he'd go to Ohio State and like all these other places. He's like, "Oh, they actually care out here," and that's
Yeah.
why he left. That's kind of something that they're going to have to work on. I know
Oh, it's an
everybody in
issue.
California wants to get these big time schools back to like their stuff. You got to show up for the games even when they're losing. That's kind of how it goes. There's too much to do in LA though. That's the
Way
issue.
too much.
But all these other schools are offering people that actually live and breathe college football. So when these kids go to visit these other schools, they're seeing an electric atmosphere. They
Yep.
know they're going to be the man on campus. They know this is going to be something that means a lot to people, and they're going to go to the league after this. So CJ Stroud saying that flew under the radar. I thought that was very important. I also think that's one of the reasons why I think Caleb Williams wouldn't go to UCLA. I think you're going to have to give Lincoln a little bit of time to get USC back to that level, because I think everybody thinks Lincoln's going to walk in and immediately all the recruits are going to come to him. I think it might take him 2 or 3 years, low key. I really do.
I think Lincoln's going to be fine. It might take him some years, and I think people are going to start showing up big time once he gets it going. But you're right. And it's not like it was back in the day where like it meant something to stay home. That's gone, bro. Like, nowadays these guys are making so much damn money. If they want to go home, they can just hop on a flight. They can pay for that now. Back in the day, it used to be when you go out to college, these like they don't have money to come home until break or something like that. Like that's not how it is anymore. Like these guys would much rather be in a place that they feel like they're playing in the NFL. When you play at Ohio State on Saturdays, it's like you're playing in the NFL because of the stadium. They don't want to be in a half-ass stadium. Lincoln Riley's going to have to change that. I don't see much changing with UCLA. I like Chip, and I think that he'll be good and he'll have upsets, but Lincoln Riley will change that. I think Lincoln Riley's going to bring it back, but that is a fascinating comment. And CJ Stroud, bro, that boy, that Rose Bowl game, man, he is so good, dude.
Smith and Jigba, oh my
Yeah,
god,
man, they are so. That's such
Smith
a
and Jigba
fun
was cooking
watch.
everybody off the line.
That was
Oh
crazy.
man,
But yeah, so I think that's good conversation. Shawn, he is taking Bama, and I am.
Bama by 3. Bama by 3.
I'm gonna go Georgia. I'm gonna go Georgia by 7 in a low scoring game. I'm talking like I'm taking Georgia 17-7, bro. Like I'm going Georgia 17-7, 17-10. But I'll tell you this. I might eat my words. I wouldn't be shocked about it. I'm not putting money on it. And if it becomes high scoring early, I'm live betting Bama because Bama's winning that game. Like I'm live betting Bama because Georgia is not going to have a track meet with Bama. It's just not happening.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree.
Yeah, and we'll keep things posted on the Caleb Williams thing. And what we're also going to do now that college football's ending, we're going to start this pretty early too, just because we both love the draft. We're going to do draft talk early. We're not going to wait until, springtime to start talking draft. Like we're going to do a weekly, like we're all about the draft. So
Oh yeah, we're
something we
big
haven't
time
talked
into it.
about yet, but
Yeah, we're big time in the draft. Like
yeah.
it's going to be a big part of the show. We're gonna when we get closer, we'll probably do full team breakdowns. That's kind of what I want to do when we get closer to the draft. But we're going to start off with like just how we feel about prospects now. Then afterwards, after the combine, things change. We're going to be real in depth about it. So if you really want to follow your NFL team or your favorite college players going to the league, we're going to be right here the whole time weekly.
No doubt.
So
we're gonna do team needs, team weaknesses. We're gonna do everything like that. Which players fit where. We'll do mock drafts. We'll do all that stuff. So no doubt about that. We'll be back also to break down this coming week of the NFL. Last final week. A lot of interesting news. The Bengals sitting Joe Burrow. looks like they're pretty much comfortable maybe facing off against the Patriots, bro. I don't know if you saw that, but with them sitting Burrow, it pretty much sets up a matchup against the Patriots, which is fascinating to me because I don't think that's someone they want to face off against. With Belichick will lock Jamar Chase down. He's going to find a way. He just does it. But we'll get into that. That's something we'll get into. I know Sean's chipping to talk about that. Other than that, we appreciate everyone tuning in. This is the Money Down Pod. I am Kayvon Izami. That is Shawn White. Follow us on any podcast platform. Let us know your thoughts. Give us a 5-star review. Follow Shawn on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan. Follow me at Kayvon_sports and follow the show page at Money Down Pod. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll be back later on. Talk more.